Hey girl, sorry I fell asleep on you, and so I'm sending this as I'm getting the kiddos off to school in different places. Um, I don't know or talk to any of these people, so, um, like I did go to one protest a while ago, and we kind of talked about this, but, I had a lot of people, particularly Robbie Harvey, saying a lot of very, serious things to me and being very aggressive and very pushy. And in the moment, after John Paul had showed up to my office, it seemed like all those things might have been true, and it gave me you know, I, it kind of made me feel uneasy, I guess is the best way to put it, that maybe I wasn't seeing the whole picture, maybe something needed to be looked into more. And so I did go to one protest, and I never yelled anything. I just kind of stood there and observed and just had my presence there. And of course, because I show up, all of these people think I'm just like a new member of the army. But in reality, that was not the case. I just kind of was like wanting to see it for myself, I guess, and going through my own thoughts on what was real and what was not. And these people started texting me and just blowing me up. I mean, and just telling me all kinds of things, telling me stuff about each other. I mean, they were. And in addition to that, sorry, I know you're hearing the TV in the background as I'm getting kids off to school, in the van. So with Regina Ward, how do I put this? I know very in depth the connections that she has and the relationships that she has and how she's able to remain corrupt. And one of the reasons I didn't report her is because I knew it would go nowhere. Because her and Sarah's best friend, who they're extremely very close with, is Hayes Stanton, and he serves on the review board of the bar. And so I know that Sarah had been turned in by some clients for some things, and that went nowhere because Hayes Stanton gave her a telephone call telling her about it, and just things that you're not supposed to do when you're serving on the bar. And so with Regina being a very close friend of his, that's kind of how that's going to be handled. Now, yes, he's not the only member of the review board, but he does have some influence. So the first day, I guess maybe Sarah told her that John Paul had came to the office, and the first day she just comes running up to me basically and comes into the office, and she's sitting down with Sarah, and she's all excited about wanting to get me on her side, I guess is the best way to put it. And she was asking for pictures of him, any phone calls I had with him. She wanted the records of the phone call that he made to the office. Just trying to get me to dig up whatever I could on him, anything that iPhone Guru would have sent me. And she kept saying that it was for the purpose of giving it to the FBI. And I'm like, well, if they need this stuff or they're asking for this stuff, I would never not comply with an officer asking me questions, but I feel like they would be asking me themselves. And she got very offended. It was I know all 5 agents, and they talk to me, and they trust me, and I look at every piece of information, and I filter through what they should see. And I'm like, that's not how it's supposed to work. You should be the federal agents will ask their own questions, they get their own information, and they'll filter out what they think is relevant or not relevant. Not you. And that just raised a red flag to me because I had been in the field for 17 years and I just know that's just not how this sort of thing works. And then, Sarah had mentioned that it wasn't the first time that he had been in the building because he, goes and sees Tom Winslow's office or whatever. Oh, my daughter's coming out. Let me finish this part. So I'm going to pause at him coming to Tom Winslow's office part, and then I'll finish. I'm listening back just to see if I left anything out, because it's so much information, it's hard to, remember it all. And I forgot the part where she told me, I ruined the family's settlement, and I ruined all of their options because I didn't tell anybody I heard his side of the conversation. I didn't tell anybody that he was there, and, that I didn't tell them that he had called the office before, back in February when they were trying to get a divorce. And I'm like, well, I didn't think any of that was relevant. And if I thought any of that was relevant, I would have called the FBI, not their family's attorney. But she said all these awful things that, I had totally destroyed, their chances at justice and a good settlement. And I'm like, no, I didn't. Nothing I said or could have said would have affected that. And again, I'm not here to take sides in a settlement offer that I know nothing about. It's just so infuriating. I was just I would never, if I had information that was important to the case, I would not have given it to the family or to their attorney or to any other random creator. I would have went to the FBI. I didn't think the phone call back in February was relevant. I still don't. Like I told you before, and I even said this to her when she was in our office. I'm like, do you know how many people a day I hear say they want to destroy their spouse because, the spouse is cheating? And they don't mean, I want to murder my spouse. That's not what it means. People say that all the time because they're hurt, they're frustrated, they're being cheated on, or they're trying so hard in a marriage that's just, endlessly hopeless, and they'll say, I want to destroy them, meaning, they don't want them to get things from them. They don't want to pay that person alimony. They don't want that person to get the house. They just want to cut ties and take it all and leave. That's what it means. And that's, how I took it. And that's the part that was cut out from Robbie Harvey. But she didn't like that answer. So she definitely tried to make me feel really guilty for, I guess, not sharing this relevant information at the time of their settlement, which to me would have been a conflict of interest, but we won't even go there. All right, so I'm going to finish listening to make sure I didn't leave anything out, and I'm going to read your messages. Sorry about that. My daughter was getting in the car for me to drop her off. So yeah, so then, she was asking about him coming to the office for Winslow's office, and I told her the truth that I had overheard the conversation. I said, I'm aware of the situation Sarah's talking about, and I overheard the conversation, but I never shared it with anyone. And that was the truth. That is the truth. Still the truth. And, I heard him on the phone with Russell Long, and then I heard him telephone Pastor Randall to get his input and stuff before he made the settlement offer with the family. And that wasn't intentionally. He was out in the lobby area, at the top of the staircase. He'll know where I'm talking about. He was up at the top of the staircase on the lobby, and I was literally right on the other side of the door that he was talking in front of. I couldn't have helped but overhear, And so she wanted information on that and had all these questions on that and kept repeating that I was a grain of sand, and every little piece of sand makes her big beach, and she, needs me to help her make her beach, and just all this bullshit, and I just didn't feel right about it. So I was like, well, give me your email address, and I'll think about it, and if I feel like there's something that I need to send you, then I will let you know. I just kind of tried to play it off, and that wasn't good enough for her. Then she was asking me to write down, my email address and write down my phone number, and I never wrote down any of that. I might have given her one email address that I never use, but, I wouldn't give her anything else. And she kept pressuring me, and then she's like, send me that email, and I was just like, okay, I'll think about it, and I was just trying to get away from her because, like, her personality was like a bulldog, like a pit bull, just like coming for whatever she thought I would have or wanted to paint her picture. And having said that, she reminded me of Robbie Harvey, but do know that she talks to Robbie Harvey almost every day. So everything that happens will be found out by him because of her. So anyway, the next day she comes back and she's like, you never sent me that email, and she was getting accusatory. And I said, well, first of all, when I left work, I have 4 kids, I was busy, and I told you I never told you I was going to send it. I told you I would think about it. And she was getting mad about it, and then she goes to talk to Sarah, and then at the end of the day, she's like, she comes to me again, and she's like, I could have saved you, I could have protected you, this, that, and the other. And then she's telling me that she has to let me go. And I'm like, first of all, you're not my boss. You don't even work here. You have no association with this firm whatsoever. And she basically let me go because I wouldn't turn over any information on John Paul. And I told her, I said, I have no problem if the FBI has any questions. They're welcome to ask me. They will. They're not just going to, they're going to come and ask questions if they have questions. And so I don't believe this is for them. I don't believe that, okay, Bubby, I don't believe that they're asking you to get this information from me because they would just ask me themselves, and if they need it, I'd rather just talk to them directly and not through you. And I said this because I knew it was all bullshit, and so she was mad, and then she insisted that she had to let me go, and that, I don't know, just, I was an excellent person, but, she just had to let me go. And so Sarah felt really bad about it, and she paid me for 4 months after because she knew it wasn't right. But I think that Regina had her feeling like there was nothing she could do about it either. And Sarah's a more passive person. She's a very passive attorney. She's more of like a settlement attorney, honestly. And so she doesn't handle confrontation well at all. And she doesn't like contested cases and things like that. So I knew it was in Sarah's personality to be submissive to whatever Regina wanted. So I never reported that, even though I knew it was unethical, I knew it was illegal, because I also knew that it would go nowhere. Sorry, he wanted to play on the playground while we waited for my husband to get done, and the playground slide is a little slippery and wet, so he was saying ow because he keeps bumping his wrist or his elbow on the slide. So sorry to send you so many voice memos. It's just a lot to type, and I just kind of wanted to summarize all that for you. I just talked to you a little more about it, and it was just easier for me to voice memo, plus I'm running around this morning, so normally I don't do it this way, but anyway, just let me know what his thoughts are once he tells you what his thoughts are, and if he needs more photos, I'm happy to find some more today, because there was a lot out there. So just let me know, and I hope you're doing well, girl. And last but not least, between you and me, I do have a little bit of anxiety about seeing Regina, because I am I would have loved to have gone after her, and I'm very angry with her. I know the kind of manipulative, malicious person that she is. The very last words that she said to me when I was leaving that day, she tried to give me a hug, was, you need to join me. You need to come out. You need to, help me get this wall passed, and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, I need your help. You need to help me nail that motherfucker. That was her exact words. So, and it's not an easy task either, because I do have to get off work, which I do have plenty of time since it's in advance to put that request in. I normally take my kids to school this morning. They're in the morning. They're not bus riders. and my daughter gets dropped off at the high school at 7:30, and so it is a little bit of a push for me to get from Conway to the Magistrate in Myrtle Beach in 30 minutes. In Conway traffic, I actually probably wouldn't make it in 30 minutes. So I'm going to have to figure out arrangements there. And my husband has been doing PT on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, and I take him at 7 and then pick him back up and bring him home, and then, I head to work. So I'll probably have to change his appointment that day because I think that's a Wednesday. So there's a couple of things, because usually I'll take him to PT, get my daughter to high school, bring him home, and then go to work. Hold on, bud. So, which is what I'm doing right here as I'm as I'm sending you voice memos. I'm waiting for him to get done so I can drop him off and go to work. So yeah, it's just there are a lot of moving pieces that I need to move around in my schedule. It's not, I'm not gonna lie, it's not gonna be easy for me, but I want to do what's right and I want to help him. So I'm not telling you this as a way of like me backing out or anything like that. Please don't think that. Just being transparent. So I do have some things I gotta work out in the next couple days. But yeah, I do want to help, and I do think, or at least I hope, that my testimony could help. Because I have seen a lot. I've seen a lot on the lives. I've seen a lot in the comments. But I also was there one time, but it was enough for me to see how they really were and what was going on. And so if that helps, I'm willing to speak the truth about that, because, these people scream for justice and this, that, and the other, yet they're doing crimes and injustices themselves and lying about it. You okay, bud? Okay, I got you. You hit your butt there? Yeah, on the slide? Okay. I got you. I know, you gotta be careful. They're doing crimes and injustices themselves. So, somebody needs to stand up to them. Somebody needs to stand up for what's right. Nobody should have to go through this harassment. And it's been, 9-10 months already? And he can't get peace. I mean, he's lost his wife. He's lost his church. He's lost so much. He's lost his freedom, really, because he can't even go out in public. So, that's just heartbreaking for anybody to have to go through. And if I can help in some way, I will. And I'll get a lot of backlash and hate for it. I know that. It's slippery, bud. That's why. Okay. Don't go down that one, silly boy. Wipe it off. Hold on a second. I'll get back to you. So my reason for sharing all that backstory, and I kind of wanted to share it in a voice memo so that it, it's easier to explain than text. I just, and I had so many attorneys, and I'm not even kidding, even from other counties like Columbia and Charleston, volunteered to take my case pro bono, and some volunteered to take a contingency where, they only wanted a percentage of, whatever money, because they knew it was unethical of Regina and even Sarah to allow somebody to do something that they literally can't do. But the problem was, and the reason I never went after her, and trust me, I wanted to, is because all those attorneys saw the John Paul Miller thing, and they wanted to go after him too. And I just didn't really want to do that. It just didn't feel right. And I know he was coming after me and all that, but I didn't want to do that. So I let it go. But my reason for sharing all of this is because when she sees me, she's going to be furious. And she's also going to try to manipulate it. She's going to try to say, well, didn't you, don't you have a lawsuit with John Paul? Didn't you have a issue because he showed up to your work? And I'm sure she's going to bring those things up. Any good attorney would. I know how to answer them the right way, but I just wanted it to be transparent that even though my testimony could hold a lot of weight to help, that those things will come up. And if I'm being entirely honest, yes, I did say that John Paul came to my office, and yes, I did say that I felt threatened. I didn't say he threatened me, I said I felt threatened. But the reason I felt threatened at the time is because her and Robbie Harvey were hounding me with all this stuff. They were telling me that it wasn't just about Mica's murder and that, he's been money laundering and he's involved in sex trafficking and he's being investigated for all those things. And they were telling me so many crazy, crazy stories. And I just started to become scared, like maybe I don't know the whole picture. And then when John Paul just randomly shows up unexpectedly, I start to, you get anxious and you feel kind of threatened and you're like, well, do I not know? So yeah, there was a moment that I did, but then when I saw how the protesters were acting, when I kind of looked into information for myself, and when I started to collect my own opinion and my own thoughts and separated myself from those two that were telling me things that weren't true, then I realized this is not the case. This is not really what it is, and there's no reason for me to feel threatened. And I do think he's a good person, and I think he's shown a lot of mercy to people who have treated him very poorly, and I think what they're doing to him is very unfair. It's wrong, it's unethical, it's harassment, it's just so many things. So I can answer these questions in a way that makes sense, and they're honest answers. But these questions are going to come up. They just are. And I just don't want it to be a bad thing that they come up, because I'll have to be honest. I'll have to say, yes, he came to my work. And yes, at the time, because of what I was being told, I felt threatened. But now I realize that's, I don't. So, and I can also answer questions in a politically correct way. Tyler, bud. For example, if she mentions the lawsuit, I can legally say I haven't been served with any lawsuit because I haven't been. And the court is going to dismiss that on their own anyway, because it's been 120 days and I haven't been served. And he would have had to have served me within 120 days. So it's going to be automatically dismissed anyway. So I have no motivation to help him. I'm only doing it because it's right. And I genuinely think that he needs to know there's good people out there, and there's people who want to help him. And there's people that will stand up when there's something wrong and stand up for what's right. So, I just, and I don't want a penny of his money, and I would never share that with anyone, but I would never do it for that reason either. But I can answer these questions honestly, I've never been served with a lawsuit. She can't go any further than that. So, I can shut some things down that way too, but I'm sure she would try to find tactful ways to bring up a negative light to try to discredit me. So, just be aware she's that kind of malicious.